Well, it is finally time to breathe. What a test match we have just witnessed between Ireland and South Africa. The two teams went at it right from the off and it went down to the wire at the end. Such a tightly fought contest, and in my lifetime watching rugby, this has to be up there as one of the most competitive and tightly fought games with the amazing atmosphere. Just the Irish fans wouldn't stop. They came in their thousands, came in their tens of thousands, but actually sounded like hundreds of thousands. The Box fans had a big presence in the stadium as well, and it created such an amazing atmosphere. The Irish came out with the victory at the end, and look, the crowd just erupted. It was phenomenal to watch. But from the opening minute, it was chaos. Not the most extravagant and highly scoring match, but it was so competitive right from the off. The Irish kicked off the match, and Faf de Klerk put in a double miss pass and it went out into touch inside the South African 22 in the first 45 seconds. Josh van der Flier dislocated his finger, was getting that pushed in. There was players gliding off of the ball. It was just absolute chaos. But what a game unfolded after that point now. Look, it was very tight throughout. At half-time 7-3 to Ireland, courtesy of a try from Mack Hansen. Now look, both teams looked like they could score in that first half, and just amazing defence on the goal lines from both teams. Now, it looked like both teams were relatively happy to concede metres around the 10-metre line, but as soon as either of them entered the 22, the goal line defence just was absolutely incredible on both sides, and both sides had to work immensely hard for their tries. Now, the main thing I just picked up on is physicality in every single aspect of the game. The line-out was a huge problem for Ireland in the first half, especially with Kelleher. Maybe it's the lack of time they've had together. Dan Sheehan was on the bench, which shored things up a little bit when he came on, but it was a huge problem for Ireland. I think they lost 6 line-outs. Etzebeth and Moster getting up and competing, and it really, really stunned the Irish momentum. A lot of the Irish sort of set piece and attack plays come off the line-out, so I was very worried for the Irish at that point, and it looked like South Africa could really benefit from the lack of Irish territory, from not being able to retain their own ball. Now, Colby scored later in the second half. Now, look, the scrum sort of 10-15 minutes into the second half really started to creak for Ireland. I think Porter, he's been playing so many minutes. Look, they don't quite have the privilege to bring on a huge bomb squad like South Africa. So Porter, he did incredibly, but I did feel for him because he knew he was having to face a whole new front row, and look, he looked a little bit knackered, but fair play to him, he stuck in there. But the Box did reap some rewards from that scrum. It did creak for Ireland, and they managed to get a penalty advantage off of a scrum 5 metres out, and look, they went over in the corner, and happy days. Both Hansen and Colby made that extra effort to just run towards the post to get an easier conversion. It paid off for Ireland with Johnny Sexton converting, but Manny Libbok wasn't able to for South Africa, unfortunately. It did come down to the kicking this game, really. Ultimately, in the end, South Africa left 11 points out there off the kicking tee. 2 from Faf de Klerk and 2 from Manny Libbok. Massively hurt them in the end. If you add 11 points onto that score, and it's a comfortable win for South Africa. So, look, obviously Ireland would respond if South Africa were to score, and you can't exactly add it on quite like that. But it was so tightly fought, and the goal kicking really did let South Africa down. In terms of what each team did well, I've just made a couple notes here. I think one of the main things for Ireland, I mentioned their forward mobility in my preview, and I thought their shape and the ability to identify space was really, really good. As everyone in the comment section identified, the Box really did blitz off that line and put Ireland under all sorts of pressure. Look, the South African forwards were definitely tasked with, as any sort of flanker is in any game, going after Johnny Sexton, and look, you could definitely see that they wanted to put as much pressure on the Irish halfbacks as possible. Gibson Park had a tough time at the breakdown. The ball was squirting out everywhere, players on the wrong side, sometimes illegal, sometimes legal. It was just an absolute chaos, so he did well to sort of maintain the composure. Likewise for Faf de Klerk, the ball was everywhere, bodies everywhere, pressure coming on from all different angles, and they did well. Now, both sides' defence was absolutely phenomenal. I mentioned the goal line defence was just incredible. Look, they just dug in. I'm not going to say I thought South Africa were going to score at the end, but when that maul got rocking and rolling, it did look very, very ominous. And it collapsed at the end, and Ben O'Keefe was searching for the ball, and it was just so intense. The ball did actually emerge, and I think it was Diolande got his hands on it, but by that time it was too late and the final whistle had gone. So look, that was an example of the Irish defence coming out on top, but there was many times where especially with the breakdown. There was turnovers at both ends of the field. Now, one statistic which I thought was absolutely fascinating was it was pretty much 25% in each different quarter of the field. That's how balanced this game was. It was absolutely unreal. A couple other things for Ireland. Their kicking. I thought James Lowe did really well with his left boot. I think they got a free kick with about 10 minutes to go, and he managed to get it from his 5 metre line all the way up to the South African 10 metre line, and it bounced just over the touchline. These are just so sort of fine margins, but make such a difference in the context of a match. The line out for Ireland was a massive trouble, as I've mentioned, and it's something that if they want to go far in this tournament, they really have to shore up on. Now, look, I don't know who takes responsibility for it. You can't put it all on Kelleher. You have to give it to Tadhg Beirne, James Ryan as well, and then Henderson. I think the lineup did improve when Henderson came on, so I don't know if that was something tactical. And Peter O'Mahony also. The scrum for Ireland, they did actually get a couple, I think it was free kicks or penalties, but on the most part, I'd say the South African scrum was slightly more dominant. It looked like it could be a sort of a real determining factor in the game, but the Irish did well to really lock out some of those scrums. Like, that is probably some of the best scrummaging I've ever seen. You got like Tadhg Furlong and Porter fully locked out. You've got, who was it? I can't remember who it was now. Malherbe and Kitshoff for South Africa, just completely locked out. Whenever anyone tried to get a foot off the floor to continue driving, they swayed back, they put their foot down, and it just levelled out. There's so much pressure going through there, and I think both front rows nearly simultaneously fainted as they stood up after that. It was just huge amounts of pressure going through them. For Ireland, discipline nearly cost them. It really did. Obviously, the scoreline is outside of a penalties width, but at one point it was, I think it was, 10-8, where South Africa had many shots at goal from poor Irish discipline around offsides and not rolling away. So that is something Ireland also will need to shore up on. And then the last thing for Ireland, I think both teams were guilty of this, but is resourcing the breakdown. They got isolated quite a few times. Likewise with South Africa, the likes of Josh van der Flier did get over the ball also, but I'd say more so on the Irish side, they really need to look after that ball a little bit better. But both teams were absolutely phenomenal. And then for South Africa, what they did well, unbelievably physical. Look, especially in that last 20 minutes, they were the better team. They looked way more comfortable with the ball in hand. Some big carries up the middle, and they looked absolutely ominous, and they looked very, very dangerous. The scrum, obviously, as I've said, was a huge positive for South Africa. And look, they just can't. Unlike 2019, the scrum's probably around the same level of dominance. They just can't turn it into 3 points because the goal kicking execution is just simply not there. The defence, as I've mentioned, was huge for the Boks, and line-out steals nearly won them the game, to be honest. Look, I can't imagine the difference it would have made if the Irish could have kept all of those line-outs in which they threw sort of 5-6 more attacking positions. Look, they could have yielded way more points, so you never know how that really impacted the game, sort of more so than just the general steal at the line-out. Goal kicking cost South Africa, and then the last thing I've put is execution. And this is probably for both sides. They both had quite a lot of visits to the 22 and rarely came away with points. So, look, I'm not going to say that's something they have to improve on because it's so sort of specific down to the individual teams you're playing against. Some games are just simply like that. And just to touch finally back on the end of the game. Look, the Boks got a penalty on the halfway, unbelievable kick to touch. And look, it did feel like the Boks were going to go over, and look, it'd level it up, it'd be a draw with a kick to win it. But the Irish, man, they just dug in. You saw the crowd absolutely roar, and it's almost like as the crowd roared, the Irish Maul defence just grew, and the Maul just collapsed on the floor, and there was no clear and obvious decision that the Irish collapsed it, and Ben O'Keefe called a halt to the game. And wow, what an ending that was. It's always great when the team who's going to lose get the final chance to win it, and it always goes down to the wire. So look, I have to say both fans in the stadium were absolutely phenomenal. From what I heard from the TV, it was just absolutely electric atmosphere. Look, in terms of man of the match, I think Bundee Aki got it. He was phenomenal. Some brilliant busts up the middle. I got quite a bit of stick for picking Bundee Aki over Damien de Allende in my combined 15, so I did crack a little smile when I saw Bundee go through the middle. But look, South Africa can be so proud of their efforts. Phenomenal from them, and I really do think they'll go a long way in this tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if these two meet for the final. So what a game we've witnessed. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Please share this video if you're Irish, to all of your Irish friends you watch that watch the game with. And if you're South African, look, you're going to qualify from the pool. You've beaten a good team in Scotland, and look, I'm sure you'll be huge trouble to any team you face in the knockout stages. And yeah, you can hold your head high. Look, the game was on a knife edge, and look, I'd say Ireland, in terms of execution, they say the scoreboard doesn't lie, which is always true, but in terms of opportunities created, South Africa did more than enough to come away with the W. So look, impressive on both sides from both teams, things to work on as always. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, I'll get back to every single comment, and yeah, thank you very much for watching.